I invite Shri Kaushik Bhai Patel. Kaushik Bhai, can you little lower the camera so we can see you full? Very good. Now, Kaushik Bhai is a great friend, is a guide, is a supporter, and I'm very proud he's my donor also. So Kaushik Bhai knows the law very well. He is known for registering so many organizations. There cannot be a better person than Shri Kaushik Bhai Patel to talk on regulatory framework for NGOs. Kaushik Bhai, floor is yours.
Can I put something on that cherry, that Black Forest cake, a cherry on it? So all of the delegates and the participants, we have 32 countries joined in, and non-governmental organization as well as the healthcare administrators as well as the governmental organization and health ministries are part of this forum at present. What we are building up with this session is also how the Indian NGO or the charitable foundations work are based on the financial structure, and what is Dr. Bhushan Punani had shared about is what are the fundamentals to build up on that aspect. Yes. Over to CA Kaushik Patel.
Kaushik Bhai.
Thank you, Punani Sahab. Yes, at the outset, I am grateful to AIDR and MHF for giving me this opportunity and to be amongst the crowd of doctors. So I am rather an odd man in this professional group of doctors. But anyway, really it is an interesting experience for me to share my experience. In fact, in this subject, Dr. Punani is a more appropriate person, having more practical experience in dealing, because he's running an NGO, which must be facing all various issues in complying with the regulatory requirement. In fact, it is I'm on the other side of the table where I am advising my client, whereas Mr. Punani is on that side of the table where he must be experiencing the real problems in complying with the regulatory requirement. And he has very rightly said that NGO is, I think in our country, they are being now looked upon with some suspicious eyes. And government is coming out with more stricter requirements for NGOs, be it an income tax or even FCRA, or even the contributions under Companies Act also, they have made it more stricter under CSR. So having regard to all these things, we have to, NGO have to work and find their own course of action. So without wasting on much of time, let me start with my presentation. Yes. Is it visible? Share.
Yes, well visible.
It's visible, sir.
Visible.
Use the full screen. Double click the presentation and use the full screen. Go ahead, sir.
Yours mic is mute. You can unmute yourself, and then in the right bottom next to zoom in zoom out, there is a window click. You can click over that. Your mic is yes, right bottom.
Right, but mute me.
No. To your presentation. The slideshow. Yes, lower, right side. Yes, the first window. Thank you.
Has it come? Yes. I think still full screen has not come. No?
It is taking time. Yeah. Yes, go ahead. It's a presenter mode. Yeah.
So let me start basically with the question, why the regulations? And I think initially we discussed that the regulations are very strict in our country. the government intentions are to regulate the NGOs in various manners. But what I see is that basically first is the principle of trusteeship that Gandhiji announced, that under the trusteeship principle, the NGOs are the particularly governing body members of the NGOs are the trustees, and they have to act in that manner. And so in that context, some monitoring mechanism is required. Another intention appears to be preventing misuse of funds by the NGOs. Third is the governance for effective utilization of funds. Then I think FCR is concerned, it is in consideration of the national security. We have also seen that under the guise of a charity, the business activities are being carried on by the NGOs, some of the NGOs. There are always black sheeps, so which has to be controlled. And supplementing the various government programs, government is taking the help of NGOs. And for that purpose, various regulations are being prescribed. The topic I have divided considering the three major aspects: regulatory provisions applicable to setting up of an entity, applicable to sources of funds, and various operations of the NGO. In a summarized form, I have tried to bring out the regulatory requirement for setting up of the legal entity. Basically, there can be three forms of the entities. One can be a trust, another can be a society, and third is the Section 8 company. The statute applicable in case of trust is the State Trust Act or the Indian Trust Act. In our Gujarat, it is the Bombay Public Trust Act. There is a Gujarat Public Trust Act, but it is still not implemented. Then at the national level, we have Societies Registration Act 1860 and also Companies Act 2030 for company format. The jurisdiction of the authority under the Trust Act is the Charity Commissioner. Then there is a Registrar of Society. I think in the Gujarat, it is the Charity Commissioner also holds the charge of Registrar of Society. And we have Registrar of Companies for the Companies Act. Documents for creation of the entity is the trust deed. In case of society, is the Memorandum of Association and rules and regulations. In case of company, it is Memorandum and Articles of Association. Briefly, so far as trust is concerned, it is called a settlement, where there is a trustee, there is a settler who settles some property on the trust, hands it over to certain persons who are called trustees, and there are beneficiaries. In case of charitable trust, public at large is considered as beneficiaries. Number of members required for setting up: in case of trust, minimum 2 trustees. Society, minimum 7 members. In case of company, if it is a private company, there are 2 members, or if it is a public company, there are 7 members. The manner of appointment of board of management, it is by way of election or selection, as the trust deed provides. Then appointment of election by members, that regulations will provide in case of society. And under the Companies Act, it is election by members of the company. Source of fund, in case of trust, it is majority through donation. In case of society, either if it is a large number of members, and membership fee and donation. And in case of company, it is share capital, membership fee and donation. There are also restrictions on the investment of funds. In case of trust, the Trust Act provides the manner in which and the form in which the investments of the trust fund can be made. Similar is the case of society, where the trust, it is required to be registered as a trust. So Trust Act provision will also be applicable. Under the Companies Act as such, there is no regulatory requirement, but investment beyond certain limits can be made with the approval of the members in general meeting. I'm not going into technicalities of these aspects. Now coming to first, that was first aspect, regulatory requirement relating to setting up. Second aspect is the sources of fund, which is very important, I think, for the participants to understand. The sources of fund are broadly into 3 categories: donations, foreign contribution, and government grants. Donations can be further subdivided into donation by NGOs, donation by households, and donation by corporates. Foreign contribution, there is a Foreign Contribution Regulation Act, and government grants will deal with it separately. Coming to regulations relating to donations, they can be further classified into general donations, corpus donations, and specific donation for acquisition of asset or for any project. A small provisions has to be kept in mind is the charitable trust, that is charitable institutions having a sole object of medical relief, they are not liable to contribution to the Office of Charity Commission. There is a provision that every charitable trust having income have to contribute 2% of their gross income to the fund maintained by Charity Commissioner. In case of medical institution, this is not applicable. Coming to important provisions with regard to income tax, so far as the donations are concerned. The income of the NGO is generally exempt from income tax on fulfillment of certain conditions, and these are to be strictly followed. The activities should fall under the definition of charitable purpose as per the Income Tax Act. It must obtain the registration from Commissioner of Income Tax. This is very important, and you must be aware that recently the government has amended the Income Tax Act, requiring the registration of charitable institution every 5 years. And now for the first time, that provision is effective from 1st April 2021. And now all the trusts are required to get themselves re-registered, I would say, re-registered under the Income Tax Act, and which will have to be done now at the end of every 5 years. And third important condition is that it must apply for charitable purpose 85% of the income during the year. So whatever the income has been earned, it has to be spent on the object of the trust during the year. What would happen if 85% income is not applied? First option government has given is that you accumulated the income for a period of 5 years and specify the object on which the income will be spent, and you keep that amount invested in safe mode as per the provision of section 11(5) of the Income Tax Act, but have to ensure that within that said period of 5 years, it is applied for the object of the trust. It may so happen that if you are accounting the receipt on accrual basis and expenses on accrual basis, so if you contend that if you have spent 85%, but income is not received, then that can be deemed to have been applied for the purpose of income tax. And the consequences, if you have not utilized the amount during the period of 5 years, then it will become liable to tax in the year in which there is a default in application. There are some special provisions with respect to exemption. And popularly, it is first is the section 1023C entity, which deals with the exemption of income of certain entities, which includes hospital and other medical institutions. This exemption is available to the institution which are only and or substantially financed by the government grant exceeding 50% of the total receipt, or having annual receipt not exceeding 1 crore in the financial year. Second exemption is also this 1023 exemption is subject to the compliance of the conditions which are on the similar line to those prescribed under section 11. That is, you have to get yourself registered, you have to spend the income 85% of the income during the year, or if not spent, you can accumulate it during the period of 5 years. Another important exemption is the donation received in the form of corpus donation. What are corpus donation? Corpus donations are those donations which are received with a specific direction from the donor in writing that it shall form part of the corpus of the trust. And recently the Income Tax Act has amended this provision by providing that amount of corpus donation cannot be utilized. You can just utilize the income generated out of the corpus donation. The donations would not be received unless the donor gets some tax benefit. So that's why the provisions under the Income Tax Acts are there, that if the donor gives a donation to an eligible institution or recognized institution, which is as per section 80G of the Income Tax Act, he or she will get the deduction equal to 50% of the amount of donation during the year. And there is another provision also that if any amount is contributed by to an approved scientific research institution, then 100% of the amount contributed is allowed as a deduction. But this will be helpful to those entities who have a business income, because deduction under section 35 is available as a business expenditure. Another important point with respect to donation to be kept in mind is the provisions regarding anonymous donation, which are considered as a taxable. What are anonymous donation? These are the voluntary contribution without any record of identity, which are received as which are considered as an anonymous donation, that you don't have the information about the donor or their address or their PAN number. So if you have received such sum, or after receiving such sum, if you do not keep the record of the donor, then it may be considered as anonymous donation. It is exempt in case of trust which are only for religious purposes. Otherwise, anonymous donation is taxable at the rate of 30%, exceeding the exemption limit. And what is the exemption limit? It is the higher of 5% of the total donation received, or rupees 1 lakh. So this can be explained like this, that if you have received 100 rupees as donation during the year, and out of that 100 rupees, say 40 rupees is the anonymous donation. So you can get exemption up to 10 rupees. 30 rupees will be considered as anonymous donation. On 30% tax will be required to be paid. And balance 70%, 70 rupees, the tax will be liable as per normal provision. So you can get the exemption as per section 11. Coming to the second type of donation, that is donation by corporates. And this is a very important provision brought out by the government under the Companies Act 2013. That spending on corporate social responsibility, which is an obligation as per the provision in the Companies Act, and it is forming a part of source of fund by the NGO in healthcare sector. To which companies this provision applies? The company having a turnover of 1,000 crore or more, or company having a net worth of 500 crore or more, or company having a net profit in the year of INR 5 crore or more. So any of this company fulfilling any of these criteria, it is required to contribute at least 2% of its average net profit during the immediately preceding 3 financial year for CSR activities. Now for CSR activity, how they can implement? They can by themselves implement, or they can implement through eligible implementing agencies, or joint implementation with one or more companies. So for us or for NGOs, the benefit of this provision can be taken by working as an implementing agency. So in the next slide, I have briefly mentioned the requirement to act as an implementing agency for CSR activities. Public agencies with established track record of at least 3 years of undertaking CSR activities are eligible for undertaking the CSR contribution. This entity can be Section 8 company, or public trust, or a society, or it should have been or it is registered under Section 12A and 80G of the Income Tax Act 1961. So any NGO fulfilling any of these criteria can work as an implementing agency for CSR activity of the companies. Another important amendment which has been brought out by the government for controlling the activities of CSR by implementing agency, that these entities which want to undertake CSR activity have to get themselves registered with Ministry of Corporate Affairs by filing form CSR 1. Once they're registered, such entities will receive the registration certificate. Whether you are an eligible implementing agency or not, so it will depend on the activities which you are undertaking. So activities relating to malnutrition, promoting healthcare, including preventive healthcare, is a part of CSR for receiving contribution. So for the participants of this conference, if you are undertaking this type of activity, you are eligible for receiving CSR contribution as an implementing agency. Coming to more stricter regulation about the donation or contribution received from foreign source, which is the, I think, most difficult act to comply with, and becomes, I think it is becoming difficult for the NGOs to receive the donations or contribution from foreign source. The applicable law is the Foreign Contribution Regulation Act 2010, which regulates the acceptance and utilization of foreign contribution or foreign hospitality by certain individuals or associations or companies. It prohibits the acceptance and utilization of foreign contribution or foreign hospitality for any activity which is detrimental to the national interest or national security, and provides for matter connected therewith or incidental thereto. FCRA permits the receipt of foreign contribution by NGOs subject to following condition. It must have a definite cultural, economic, educational, religious, or social program, and it must obtain FCRA registration or a prior permission from the central government, which is the Ministry of Home Affairs. Foreign contribution, it means a donation, delivery, or transfer made by any foreign source. So it can be in various form, currency or security, that is also permitted. Acceptance of contribution, as I said earlier, two requirements: registration or prior permission. Registration, it is eligible for a period of 5 years. Contribution received cannot be used for speculative activities and admin expenses exceeding 20% of the total. And once cancelled, you cannot get yourself re-registered for a period of 3 years. Another option available is the prior permission, that if you are receiving a donation for specific purpose, then prior permission can be obtained for that purpose. Then contribution received cannot be used for speculative purpose also. I am not going into details of the requirements for prior permission or registration because of lack of time.
Thank you.
Just highlighting the compliance requirement. Compliance is annual returns to be filed. You have to open a separate bank account with the State Bank of India designated branch. Any change in the name, address, and names is to be intimated to MHA within 30 days of change. Any change in the office bearers also more, which is resulting to more than 50% or more, is also required, cannot be made without the prior approval of the ministry, and audited accounts and report has to be furnished. Another important restriction which has now been brought is that the entity receiving the foreign contribution cannot onward transfer the foreign contribution to any other person. In respect of government grant, an important point to be noted is the NGO Darpan registration, which is now mandatory for NGO to apply for government grants, which is and track the status of their application. It also helps in improving the credibility and goodwill of the NGO. There is no annual compliance relating to this. However, NGO have to update the latest governing body details as and when there is any change. This is also an important compliance which NGO has to bear in mind. Coming from financial aspect to other regulatory requirements relating to operation, justly slightly touching upon is the obtaining license under Shop and Establishment Act. You will also to comply the labor laws if applicable relating to PF. Sorry?
We have to speed up.
Yes, just at the last slide. Just GST, donation received not liable, and healthcare services by clinical establishment and medical practitioner is exempt. Just key takeaways: building up image or goodwill. This will be a regulatory requirement help in building up the image. It will ensure that you have to ensure that donation received do not get frittered away in taxes, ensuring utilization for object of the NGO. Investment has to be made in a specified manner, and compliance to avoid any penal action. Thank you.
Kaushik bhai, heartiest congratulations. I must tell you, I've seen many presentations on NGOs, CSR. This is one of the finest, most comprehensive, and most accurate presentation. Congratulations. We have almost covered everything concerning NGOs under all the laws in the most perfect manner. My heartiest congratulations. I'm sure the participants have a number of questions, but we'll wait for other presenters so that we can make up for a little time. I hope possibly you are available till the end.
I think I may have to leave.
Okay. In that case, if there's any burning question from a participant, Dr. Yes, we can take one or two questions.
The question will pop up in our, so everyone can ask the questions from there, and that would be popping up. So it might take some time. So till time we can go ahead with the further sessions. And
you can go in the chat and ask your question. Possibly will be pleased to answer. And I'll request Dr. Yash Patel to give the contact detail of Kaushik bhai if anybody has any question later on. And I know Kaushik bhai is a very unassuming person. He'll be very happy to answer your questions whenever you require, because he is somebody who wants to help the NGO sector in the best possible way. You are welcome to reach him whenever you have any doubt. But Kaushik, I also request you to provide me a copy of your presentation.
Thank you.
I'll preserve it. It's really a very well done.
Thank you.
With this, thanking Shri Kaushik Bhai for very
There
good
is,
presentation. We
Bhushan
invite,
sir,
yeah.
there is one question from Mr. Rajesh ji.
Okay,
He's one
right.
of our organizing secretary
sure.
also, and the scientific content is one of his background.
Okay,
So he
Rajesh
has
Bhai, please
provided.
go ahead.
Thank you, Yash bhai. Kaushik bhai, very useful presentation. I learned a lot of things. One question regarding NGO Darpan. NGO Darpan registration is only mandatory from the perspective of receiving or working with government projects, or otherwise also it is beneficial?
I think now it is becoming mandatory everywhere, because if you are applying for FCRA also, they want it. So
Okay.
any support which you require, and I think it will increase the credibility.
Okay. Okay.
It's a very simple formality,
Uh,
and it is maintained by Niti Aayog of the central government.
okay. And same ways with the CSR 01 form, which you
Yeah,
mentioned.
it is also a very simple form, and immediately you are getting the registration. Not much detail to be filled in.
Okay. Okay. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Kaushik Bhai, once again.